What is going on, Cardiac Clippers fans? Excuse me. I'm Chuck Mockler here, sending this invite out to Will and Adam, who should be on soon. Clippers lost, but damn if they didn't show a bunch of fight and resilience. We saw a new starting lineup, which was good. I mean, we're going to get into the stats later, but the new starting lineup was good. It was better than what we had been seeing. I think that makes total sense. For the people who were wanting a starting lineup change, you got one, and it was good. There was good results from it. Chris Dunn played fantastic, but we have to talk about yes. If you're listening to this, this is going to be put up after we do the live. If you want to see us go live, check out youtube.com/@ClippersPodcast. Jordan Miller got some real time in this one. I don't know if everyone else kind of shared the thought of like, oh, Ty Lue seems to be waving the white flag a little too soon when he brought in Jordan Miller and Kobe Brown, but that is not what happened. It's not Henny Ween, but we're still having a fun time. Incredible effort from the Clippers, especially late. It was Bones, Jordan Miller, Terance Mann, Kobe Brown, and Amir Coffey. No. Jay is saying they would rather have gotten blown out, got my heart racing for nothing. This Clippers team is built to have your heart racing for nothing. You need to get used to it, Jay. I'm very sorry. Hell of a fight. You love to see the guys coming back. This competitive spirit is still very much in this team. It was instilled in the preseason, and it's carried over. There was some good and some bad. Obviously, the loss is not good, but hey, they got another shot on Friday, and there was some good stuff in here. You can't be mad at Jordan Miller getting some time. Terance Mann coming off the bench, and he looked fantastic. I want to talk about this, Cameron. There's a great quote from Terance Mann. He said you can pout or you can kind of respond, I believe, was the quote when this new lineup came out. And he responded, if there's one guy who's used to a role change on the LA Clippers, it is Terance Mann. And he played very well off the bench. He took 9 field goals, which I have to assume is the most he's taken in a game all year. 14 points, 8 boards, 3 dimes. It was great. It was 23 minutes about good stuff. I thought Terance Mann looked good. I also thought Chris Dunn looked good with the starters. If you watch this whole game, what do you have? 4 assists in the first 3 minutes. He ended with 8. He was plus 11 in a 7-point loss in a game where the Clippers lost a double-digit lead. The 11th time in 12 games they have lost a double-digit lead. So Jordan Miller looked like someone who hadn't played a lot of NBA basketball. I don't mean that disrespectfully. He had one turnover that was pretty bad and another that was almost really bad. But he went into slash mode. He got the whistle twice. I don't know. He was part of a lineup that was constructive, which I think in the context of Jordan Miller should make Jordan Miller fans feel great. He definitely did nothing. I don't think he did anything to make him lose time. You know what I mean? He did nothing to make Ty Lue not want to play him. There's a lot of hey, I don't, to be clear, at no point did I say this roster was an elite roster. I don't know why everyone's so upset. We knew that this roster was going to be shaky, right? Like no one thought that this roster was top to bottom, like elite all the way through. So take your victory lap on the thing that all the other Clippers fans knew, I guess. Michael Youn's in a really bad mood, so I'm going to do a very funny thing, which you can do on YouTube, which is put people in timeout. I don't know. It seems fun. So I saw a good comment from Jeremy Mormon here. Jeremy, Okay. I don't know. The bench the bench was very bad in this game, basically until the last that last little flurry. They were getting smoked in points. Kevin Porter Jr. only played 5 minutes. And if Kevin Porter Jr. isn't scoring, the bench scoring is pretty rough. I don't mean that like disrespectfully at all towards KPJ. He's here to score. He got 3 quick fouls really fast. I think at one point the Rockets were outscoring us like 40-14 on the bench or something like that, which didn't go well. This is a good Rockets team. They're really good on the offensive glass. They're like a top, I think, 3 in total offensive boards per game and in percentages. They miss a lot of shots, but they grab them. They had 18 offensive boards in this game. Hard to win like that. Miles Johnson saying Dunn was good with the starters, but it makes the starters so small. Yes, for sure. This is kind of a small team until Kawhi gets back, and then it's kind of just a medium-sized team. So you're definitely not wrong about that, Miles. I like this take by Chunk, and I would agree. Small, young, and athletic is our worst matchup. This is an incredibly athletic Rockets team. You saw it. If you watch this game, you saw these guys. Like, we do have to give our hats. I mean, Amen Thompson was a beast in this game. Tari Eason, also very good. Young, small, athletic. We saw it against the Thunder. They're young and athletic, even not fully, rostered out. But yeah, you're right. You're not wrong at all, Chunk. This is a tough matchup for the Clippers. But we saw some good things, right? We saw Chris Dunbar's athleticism. Derrick Jones Jr. was pretty good tonight, right? Like he brought some much needed stuff, but I don't know. It's tough. We saw what happens when Norm Powell has an off night. Norm Powell's been fantastic, but he did not shoot well tonight. Thankfully, James Harden shot pretty good. But we saw the reliance on Norm Powell, and Zoo only had 8 shots, which isn't ideal. Zoo had a really tough sequence in the second half. He missed 2 free throws, and then I think missed a putback, and then immediately came back and scored 6 points. So there was some weird game flow stuff, which I think plays into kind of what Chunk was talking about with their youth and their athleticism, which is not ideal. Jay, thank you for being positive. This was a loss. But again, this Clippers season, every game's going to be close, so every game could be very lost. Third stringers plus man, which got us back. There are some silver linings, right? Guys we didn't roll over. Maybe Ty was trying to with that lineup, but they didn't. TD pointing out, we just don't have enough star talent, period. Rockets got ballers. Yeah, so a thing that I like to do, and you can criticize this if you want, but it's something that I think helps me put this Clippers roster into context, is take both the rosters at the start of the game, just put them into one big list. Look at the top 5 players. You know what I mean? If you look at the top 5 players, top 7 players, the Clippers might not have most of them. Uh-oh, folks. He's here. He's arrived. We have satisfied everything on his rider sheet, which was very difficult to do. It's only yellow M&Ms. Seems odd. William Updike.
What's up?
How the hell are you, dude? What the hell was that end of the game?
This felt like the Clippers version of a bullpen game, which I thought was actually like really, really exciting because we know about the lack of top tier talent this year, right?
Yes.
What we've talked about a little bit less. I mean, we've talked about how short the rotation has gotten, but I do feel like what we've talked about less is like this Clippers team is, running on threadbare depth compared to previous years. And on one hand, you could definitely see it as a waving of the white flag to go with this lineup to close things out.
I thought it was.
On the other hand, though, I see it a little bit like I do see it a little bit. It's like a bullpen game. We've all been begging for these guys to get some sort of minutes. There you go. They got some minutes. We got to see what they could do. They came in with a little bit of energy. I think that they could use. I think they needed I would have maybe altered that lineup with Ivica Zubac or having a big out there. I think would have helped. Like Kobe Brown, not quite big enough. I thought rebounding was actually a huge issue down the stretch for them. They were actually having some pretty solid, some pretty solid defensive possessions, but not able to like completely close them out. You know what I mean?
Totally.
So that was an issue. And then
they were playing their starters too. The Rockets were playing their starters to close this game for the most part against this unit. So
Jeremy Mormon wants me to say, this is our year? That's how you know it's our year, buddy. You put up the starters against the Clippers bullpen game. They're scared. They're afraid of us. And we got to save energy. Is this saving energy for the in-season tournament? God, I hope so.
Yeah, there were a bunch of people in the chat when this stream first started who were like, "You're lying to yourself if you think this is a top tier roster." None of us thought this was a top tier roster.
Some would argue.
No one was looking.
Addition by subtraction, baby. It's real math.
No one was looking at this roster this year and going, "Wow, this is the best Clippers roster we've ever had." So let's get that out of the way. I like this point by Dog 8. Our bench can't really score. Clippers have always had a sixth man like Crawford, Lou, Trez, Powell, and we need a reliable scoring punch. KPJ is not there yet. The early foul trouble for KPJ tanked the bench scoring. Like until that bullpen game came in, we were getting smoked on the bench. But like, I don't know. It's nice to see like everyone was asking for Jordan Miller and Bones and the stuff. We saw them. They were fairly productive for all things considered.
I mean, it's kind of best case scenario, right? Because this isn't what you would classify as garbage time minutes. So you know that you're going to get Bones, if not top level competition, is like as damn close as you can in a non.
Like, he'll care too
in a non regular season game in Chicago, as close to that as you're probably going to get for a regular season game. But I agree. Like there's a lot of inexperience there. Duh. Like, no real big surprise there. And I mean, that's the only thing that I would say that made it feel like a bit of a white flag game, even though I mentioned the momentum that unit was able to bring in. I totally understand riding with them. I totally understand seeing what you got through your depth chart and giving these guys who haven't had an opportunity a moment. But I think you put in one starter, you can keep the makeup of that lineup, choose your one starter. I mean, even DJJ or something out there, I think would alter things. I think that could be a significant enough, maybe not significant to guarantee they get over the hump, but I feel like a much better opportunity at coming away with a win in this one.
You get Nico out there kind of as the
even
old
Nico,
man
totally. Even give me an old guy out there.
Get an adult.
Doesn't have to be a starter.
I
think that just a substitution there. Weird supposition I want to throw at you. Is Terance so used to complete instability in the lineup and having no idea what position he's supposed to play or where he's at that he actually does better when they take him out of the starting lineup? And I'm not even saying permanently, but maybe they just keep the guy on his toes for the rest of the goddamn season. He has no idea who he's going to be guarding, what he's going to be doing on a night-to-night basis, and we will get the best out of Terance. Maybe that's just what he's been trained to do at this point, because that has been the entirety of his Clippers experience.
He said after the thing, he's like, you can either pout or you can respond. And that's all he's done, right? Like, there's been weeks where he's played different positions. So I don't think you're wrong. Him and Dunn threw him an oop. Like, this is good stuff. I do want to address one guy. Freck Hefner keeps telling people that this team is garbage. The team's 500. There's this thing where it's like, there's shades of gray, right? Like, this team is not, I know Will here thinks it's our year. Coming into this season, if you look at this roster, what did people expect? Like, to me, this was a high playing team, and I've been saying it. Like, this is what we're seeing.
High playing team with championship potential, I think, is what we're all saying the same thing, Freck.
Like, we saw, look, Norman Powell shoots 28% and we lose. that makes total sense to me. Like, we need Norm to be better. I'm not blaming Norm. He's given us
no, totally.
literally his best
It's just like we've talked about. Like, the margins for error for this team are non-existent. There's nothing. Like, a lot needs to go right, and I think you saw that when we rattled out that 4-0 win streak. And sure, you can argue that some of the competition wasn't the highest competition, but still, a lot of things kind of had to roll our way.
And that's part of the margins, I think.
Yeah,
right.
A lot of things kind of had to roll our way, and when we play teams that are in the upper, I'm going to say, just out of the play-in type teams in the West, like, the execution is going to have to be perfect to come away with a win. Like, there's no excuses. There's, that's the only way that they can come up with a win against these teams where they are out-talented, outsized,
athleted. We saw tonight what the Rockets' athleticism is incredibly real. I talked about before I got in here. They grabbed 18 offensive rebounds. You're not winning many games when you give up 18. And to Freck's point, that's a size issue, right? We don't have a backup center who Ty Lue feels comfortable playing.
Yeah.
Like, Kai was Kai was the only person not playing this game. Like, in a game where we're getting killed on the glass. You know what I mean? Like, this is not ideal. Freck is just really mad at Lawrence Frank. I don't know. What do you want me to do?
What did you want him to do?
He traded
what option out there that was so great?
All right, Freck, you're getting put on timeout. I hope you have a good rest of your night. Norm, I mean, this is what happens, right? Norm shoots poorly. Harden only shoots 40%, but he only had 1 turnover, right? Like, this was firmly Norm's worst game. He had 3 turnovers. He had 4 fouls. He just wasn't in it, which, again, I'm not like, dude has given us the best start of his career. I mean, like, you can't be mad at Norm Powell. There's going to be down nights.
Doesn't the cup kind of seem like a Norm Powell time to shine too?
Oh, I like that. In-season tournament. In-season tournament.
Cup MVP, Norman Powell.
So this is a good point too from John McClain. Whoa. I think someone else asked about this as well. We needed this win, especially with our pick situation. Yeah, so the Clippers have to finish better than the Rockets, but within 11th through 13th, I believe. Fact check, but something like that. I am doing my best to not think about this. This is a great question, Mr. McClain, because it is important. If the Clippers had a first-round pick this year, that really alters, in a good way, it makes the timeline better because they're going to play next year, and then after next season, they have all that money for a max slot. And if you happen to get a lottery pick after this season, who turns out to be not Jerome Robinson, things look a little better. So we really did need this win. I'm not going to pretend that we didn't need this win. But it's a team that, I think Chunk said this, and Will, I think you'll agree, young, athletic, defensive-minded teams, it's the worst matchup for the Clippers.
Oh yeah, for sure. But like that was the case even when 2-1-3, was playing together. Even when we got their most games out of them last season, that would still be an issue. Like teams would routinely out effort and use their athleticism to run the Clippers out off the court. So it's not really a surprise. And I do think, this team has even made moves to get better defensively, a little bit younger, and
a touch younger,
a little bit more athletic. It's baby steps for sure.
Who did we figure out that Kobe's older than?
Kobe is older than Bones.
Which is kind of crazy. But I thought this game too, for everyone who's been clamoring for youth and this stuff, like, this is best case scenario, right? Like, we've already seen,
this is like actual meaningful minutes for youth players who did manage to kind of swing some momentum, and their execution wasn't there down the stretch. I mean, what do you want? Our starters and whatever variation they are in the closing lineup sometimes aren't executing down the stretch. So you can't expect much more from a bunch of guys who haven't had that much time on the court together.
Totally.
I still am of the opinion though, like, this was a very winnable game, and like, while I see the value in a bullpen game, I think like 2 subs, and you're probably over the hump. You might be over the hump.
And it's a tough thing to, because Ty Lue has pulled, for the most part, I think he's pushed all the right buttons this season in terms of like hot hand and keeping guys in and listening to guys when, like, I think it was Norm a couple games ago was set to check in, and then the team was going on a run, and Norm was like, I don't know if I should check in right now. And Ty listened to him. So yeah, I think you're right. I would agree with that. Just something to solidify a little bit. Stump saying on Monday it was the turnovers that kill us. Today it's the rebounds and poor shooting. What are we doing, Clippers? This is the Clippers. Like the turnovers, unfortunately, I mean, what did we have tonight? We only had, wait, are you serious? We only had 9 turnovers tonight.
That's absurd.
That's crazy. That is half of the season average. You want to win a game where you turn over half your season average in turnovers.
But the rebounding was an issue. Like, I mean, we already talked about
the
that.
Zoo thing.
It was like it was clearly an issue down the stretch, and like that's another one of those things. Like one of those subs adding a little bit more size, I think would have helped. I mean, those guys, you got Kobe Brown going up against Sengun. Like it's not
he can throw the body. Kobe grabbed like 5 boards, but it's like against the starters, as we kind of talked about, it's tough. What do you make of Zoo? 27 minutes, 8 shots, had a really up and down game, I thought. But could have fed him more because they were kind of doing their thing when he was getting consistent looks.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of the difficulty with Zoo, right? Is like how much he can really assert himself on the game on the offensive end is really dependent on what everyone else is going to give him. And so I think that's why you're going to see those up and down things.
No, let him get his own shot, bro. Give him the ball. And
I mean, like maybe I would say maybe that's what you have to do, but I think you miss a few of those and you're not getting the ball at all. So it's one of those things that's really difficult because it has to come so within the flow of the offense, and he has to be a priority. Like it is something. You got other scorers out there, and I mean, you're looking to generate threes. So I do think that Zoo is a little bit of a victim of that sort of methodology and ideology, and he's less looked for out there. Defensively, I mean, I thought he was still doing Zoo stuff. A little bit different of look with a little bit more athleticism and stuff on the floor. So I don't know. It wasn't terrible. It's just a bit of a bummer that, especially offensively, he's kind of forced to be so passive that it's like really, it's really up to Ty Lue and his teammates
to determine 70%.
Yeah, to determine what kind of games he was going to have.
That's a good call. John McClain in the chat. I think the first time you popped in, John. By the way, if you're new to the pod, Adam Osland is working for AM 570 right now, and I am Chuck Mockler, Will Updike. We come at you a couple times a week. We're going to have a full actual episode for y'all tomorrow. Thanks for hanging out. John McClain saying, my take with playing the young guys is that it's not that easy, unfortunately. Developing and winning at the same time is hard, but it's possible. Could not agree more. Like, it's not like if people are mad about what the roster is, right, which I assume means they're also mad about the results that are happening. Worse results if we're trying to develop guys.
Yeah.
And I don't mean that disrespectfully. That's part of development. Young teams lose. And if you put young players on a team like this, it probably wouldn't work out very well. Yeah, I just it's a weird game. The end had me really jacked up. I was hyped. I was hyped on Chris Dunn with the starters. Dunn looked good in the starting lineup. Like that was a change that was needed. And I want to reference a stat that Law Murray tweeted out.
That's it.
If you're not following Law Murray, the starting lineup was minus 10 per 100 possessions. They were outscored by 10 points.
Yeah.
It was time.
Because it was like, 6 at the half, and then they had a really terrible third.
Yeah. And so the new starting lineup, like we saw.
Which we've also seen this season. Like we've seen, I mean, they struggled more than usual, but we've seen this team kind of be the inverse of last year where, they might start strong. This wasn't a great example, but they might start strong and then come out really flat in the third quarter. And this was kind of the worst of both sides.
Yeah. I like this point by Jonathan Ang. Problem is with Kobe and Jordan, they aren't exactly young. Very good point. Kobe's
Oh
older
yeah,
than Bones. Like
yeah,
that's
of course.
Jordan's like turning 24 or is 24. Like you're not wrong at all about that.
And we've talked about this. I mean, like, it's a difficult position. And another commenter, sorry, I forgot your name, brought this up too. Like, you want to play and develop these guys, you still got to win. So it puts that development on a halt, and it shouldn't be as much as other years, obviously, just given the amount of talent that we have cumulatively. But it's still going to happen, and it's still like there's still such unknown quantities that when a game is on the line, if one of them hasn't already been in the action or is actively on a run, can you reliably go to even a short stint with one of those guys? And I just don't think that would be your instinct. And but that being said, they all did get some quality minutes today. Who popped the most for you? Like, who do you think is now arguing to be the? I mean, what is it? It's like an 8-man rotation, so it's like the 9th or 10th man.
So I think, dude, like, and this is, yes, Mark Jag. Wait, is this Jaglin? No. That's Mike Jag. I was like, is Jaglin in the chat, the Jaguar? I know I might be biased with this, and I know people love Jordan Miller, but if you look at what this team needs, which is maybe some more size, lower on the 4 and the 5, in relation to that, I think it might have been Kobe Brown. He got boards.
Interesting.
He threw his shit around. Chunk is in the comments saying def not bones. Yeah, I think you're probably right about that. But I think maybe it was Kobe. But again, like to your point, we're going to see these guys in another kind of weird bullpen game. In a game where it's like they're down 10 and there's 8 minutes left in the 4th because we got to conserve guys' legs. Batum is old. James Harden's old. Norm is not a spring chicken. Like, you know what I mean? Like, they got to find some weird rest for these guys. So it's like this teetering point where I think we're going to see Ty Lue make these subs where there's like way more time, like more than half of the 4th quarter left. And then we're going to see like an injection of 1 or in this case, 2 of the young guys. And then we'll just see how it goes. But I think it might have been Kobe. But Jordan Miller got foul calls. Like Jordan Miller did things the Clippers need, which is to muck the game up.
Yeah.
What was your pick?
I'm still liking Jordan Miller, but it's such a Kobe Brown fits more of the mold of like what the Clippers actually need. I just like Jordan Miller for the off-ball ability, and I just think he's
slashing.
One of those, yeah. And he's one of those guys who I think, depending on the lineup, would have a lot of space around him to operate in. And of everybody on the floor, I think he's the one who could most likely take the most advantage of that.
Yeah.
If we're talking about guys not already in the rotation. Because obviously on another night, I mean, Coffee could have been much better. Hopefully this is a step in the right direction for Terance Mann. Like I said, I think he needs some sort of instability with his playing time and in position to maybe be at his best. I'm not really sure, but it looked like a different Terance.
He wants to like prove.
I'm not as high on the idea of Chris Dunn in the starting lineup. I like Chris Dunn a lot. I like what he does. I just don't like the idea of getting even smaller.
That's fair.
My big thing. But I was wrong about that with the backcourt of Harden and Powell. So I'll happily be wrong again.
Sure. Jim Jackson made an astute observation. Thank you, Jonathan Hang. T-Man in the 4th when he followed a Kobe drive and shot that missed the shot or the putback. Harden's not getting downhill to kind of do that, which is good to see. One thing I want to note, the Clippers took 96 field goal attempts in this game, which kind of blows my mind. I'm looking at what their average is for this year. I'm pulling it up right now. They average 84. They're dead last in field goal attempts. And tonight they put up 96. I like that. But I think this plays into kind of what Clippers Cave was talking about. Weird flow of the game. When a team that doesn't average a lot of shots is taking like, almost 20% more shots.
Yeah, but I mean, in a lot of instances, like these faster paced teams will kind of change the.
But the Rockets are like 20, they're not crazy in pace, I don't think.
I guess that's fair.
I could be wrong. Let me look at it. I've been neck
No, you're right.
deep
It wasn't
in
like
basketball
blistering. It
reference.
wasn't like blistering pace.
They're just so like, dude, there were just some buckets where I was like, Jesus Christ. Okay, the Rockets average. I was totally wrong. Their pace is 23rd. However, they average 94 field goal attempts per game.
Yeah. So what are they ranked in offensive rebounding? Because they must be great.
They're killing it in offense. They're number one in total offensive rebounds and number one in offensive rebound percentage.
Yeah,
Like,
that makes sense.
Yeah. Someone was asking, I think it was Miles Johnson. I hope he's still there. They are still in here. Yeah. Fair point, Miles. 96 field goal attempts and 103 points is kind of appalling. That is a very
What is it like
funny
less
way.
than what is it like 30 less than 40% from the field as a team?
Yeah.
Yeah.
The Clippers shot.
That's brutal. It's not good.
39.6. That is so funny, Miles Johnson. Thank you for that context. Someone was asking, and we'll talk about this on tomorrow's episode. How do they adjust when they play the Rockets again on Friday? This is maybe me having a bit of a whiskey. I don't know if they're getting up 96 shots again on Friday. And I think that's bad. There's a small chance they get run out of the gym on Friday.
I think they're going to show up.
I think they'll show up. Like, this team is never going to quit. I don't want to mean it like that. You know what I mean? But, like, this Rockets team is much better built to take 95 plus field goal attempts in 2 games in 3 days than the Clippers are.
Yeah, I just think that there's like a medium to that though, because the Clippers, like, you know, the offense has been like the biggest sore spot overall with the team, and they've struggled at times despite some great stuff from Norm. Those shot attempts need to be up. I assume they will be up, but the efficiency, you got to find that middle ground, right? Of like where you got to be jacking up some more shots and hope that, like the efficiency will equalize to something that you're still happy enough with. And I mean, this would be the time. This would be the time of the season for James Harden to have an efficient game like that. This would be great.
He started hot.
You know us. We're not big cup heads. But just a win, a win would be good. I'm not even going to say convincing because that's out of I think that might be out of grasp for this particular matchup.
The evil version of me is saying, since William came back from Japan, we are doomed. Blame him. No, that's not how this goes. If anything, if you look at my trip into Montana, that's kind of when shit started to go a little sideways. Yeah, they got a brutal. So they play the Rockets on Friday, and then they have a back-to-back Sunday, Monday, I believe. So I don't know. People in the comments are talking about Batum. So you also have to start thinking beyond Batum at some point.
Very valid.
But it's valid in a vacuum. Who is beyond him? Who is coming in to play the backup 4?
I just think I think the bigger issue is when he's at the 5, and that's not always the case. I agree with that. Yeah, that's not always the case, and we have seen it work. But like the Batum thing, until we have Mo back, I think like Zoo's minutes have to be higher.
Yeah, it was, and just I feel like Sengun, like I don't know if he gets the best of Zoo. I'm not saying that, but he's just kind of
He's
really good. I think is basically what it is.
He's just like for his position, he's a high skill level player, and that's he just has more moves. It's a little bit more difficult to defend. I love that Terance though got the layup over him, and
oh fuck yeah,
and was I felt comfortable with him guarding him a couple of times, size wise.
I like this from Peremi. Miller played small ball in college. He's just spitballing. I like it. Like who?
No, come on. No more suggestions to make the team smaller. I love where your head's at, but I'm losing it. I'm losing it with how small this team is.
It is a small team, and so this, like we mentioned,
And it's unathletic. Like, it's not a great mix.
There's a couple athletic guys.
Yes.
But Jordan Miller, no disrespect, you compare him to Derrick Jones Jr. or someone like that, he's not bringing that pop. He's not bringing that kind of athleticism to the roster. I think that's fair. Do you think there were some comments saying like, oh, just get Mann on the bench and then he'll figure it out and then bring him back into the starting lineup? I don't think Terance is coming back in the starting lineup.
I think it's possible.
Really? Even when Kawhi comes back?
Well,
if. Oh yeah, should we talk about that?
People were asking about Kawhi, and we kind of glossed over because we were talking about the game. But okay, yeah, when Kawhi is back, no, no chance.
Well,
for right now, I wouldn't rule it out of the realm of possibility. They have a fairly large sample size. It did seem like he had some more confidence offensively with his second unit, and like I've been saying, like I just think. I think that he thrives on adaptation. Like, I think, when he has to sort of figure out what he needs to do on a night-to-night basis, I think he's like, he's out of his head, I think, a little bit more.
He's like the kid you went to school with who was like, oh, shit, the test is today. And then 30 minutes, looks at the notes, 88%. or like a 84. You're like, you just figured that shit out? Like, I think you're right. That's kind of the Terance. Like, that might be the mode for him. Jeremy Mormon saying if hurts, and my reference to Kawhi.
Oh, yeah. So let's talk about that because
he's not traveling. He's not going to play with the team this week.
Yeah, there's no official word. I mean, there are rumblings, and rumblings is too loud of a word.
No.
I don't even whimpers that Kawhi would like to return like by Christmas. However, go ahead, circle your calendars for December. Like I said a month ago, if Kawhi is not practicing by, what do we want to call it?
Dude, it is November 13th.
Yeah, if Kawhi is not practicing by the end of the first week of December, I just don't think we're going to see him until after the All-Star break.
Yeah. Like, it just doesn't.
Let me bring up the schedule again, because that could change depending on the rest day stuff. But
well, and if you remember what the team has talked about is that they want to bring back Kawhi in a way where he's good to go, where there's no coming back out, like anything like that. So with that in mind, based on what we've been told and the small scuttlebutt that we've heard, like, it's a long-ass process, and it's November 13th. I think it might be, like, post-deadline. Maybe I'm just being pessimistic about it. But like, he's not practicing.
Deadline's in February after the All-Star break?
Yeah, he's not practicing. He's not traveling with the team. It just, like, it doesn't scream, I'm going to play in a month.
Okay.
Right? Thank you, Chunk. Chunk is
so they have a long break from the 8th to the 19th. So
of
December. So
the fuck? They don't have a game for 11 days?
Unless I'm looking at the wrong thing.
That's crazy. Did they move the All-Star break back? I mean, I believe you, but like, that rules for the Clippers. While we're looking at this, I think that Mexican Nara is right. Bone stock just keeps dropping.
Oh, yeah. I mean, look,
it's tough.
Like, there was never any after last season, after he was sent home last season, there was never any chance of selling high on Bones. Your only chance would be
we got him for 2 seconds.
Yeah, your only chance would be to rehabilitate him, and without playing time, that's impossible. I didn't think he was terrible. I didn't think he was terrible in this. He didn't really have
poorly.
Yeah, but it's only on 4 attempts. I think the bigger thing is it didn't feel like he was bringing a lot of other value out there necessarily when the ball wasn't in his hands.
Right.
And that's the issue, I feel like, with Bones.
Scott Tran asking, are those just cup games that aren't scheduled for that big break? Probably a good call.
Yes.
Jeremy Mormon, wonderful. Maybe gallows humor if you're a Clippers fan. Everyone who wanted to save Kawhi for the playoffs might get what they want. Yeah, if the Clippers get out of the play-in and make the playoffs, the triumphant return of Kawhi Leonard. I like this kind of take by Parami Serufino. I'm sure I butchered that. Please send me the proper way to pronounce your name. I don't know if this was a wake-up call for Ty to play younger legs, but I think it maybe helps him make the decision a little bit easier in future games. Ty Lue is, you know what I mean?
Just the tough thing right now is, we've kind of talked about the high degree of variability with these new pieces and this new identity for the Clippers. And, clearly we still don't even have the starting lineup finalized. I would guess that we're as close as we're going to get right now moving forward until Kawhi comes back.
The only switch I can see is Kawhi coming in, Dunn going out.
Yeah.
No disrespect to Dunn, but if you have the full roster, Harden, Norm, Derek Jones Jr., Kawhi, Zoo, hey, I'm not mad.
But I'm just saying, I'm just saying, if that's still the boat that you're in, if that's your situation, it's kind of understandable how it's been difficult to work these guys in. I think everyone understands the necessity to work them in. I think everyone understands what's at stake if they don't get one of these guys to kind of pop. If one of these guys can't be a rotation player, even in some spot minutes in the regular season.
I love what you said, like rotation. Like not second string, like not anything, just
no one's taking, none of these guys are taking anybody's spot right now.
Yeah.
Barring any sort of injury, but like you gotta get one of them to at least be good enough to get some spot rotation.
In Amir Coffee, they need to do, like, the thing that's tough is that we've seen what Amir has done. Like
I think that takes a certain type of player. I really do. I like and that's what I was saying about Terance too. There are some guys who I just feel like when there's like a degree of instability, maybe perform a little bit better. Like maybe they're kind of they're hungry for the spot, but they're like things are chaotic enough for them to get out of their own way. If that makes sense.
No, I feel you for sure. I get that.
Especially for these guys that are just like trying to get into the pecking order of any sort of rotation minutes, not even like looking for a starting spot.
Yeah. It's a weird, and I think we tried to preface this on kind of our like preseason episodes. Like this Clippers team, it's a transition era. Like we are in year one of a big transition where they're going to use a max slot after next season.
Yeah.
So like there's this year where we're figuring out, hopefully we can get one of the young guys in. And then next year, it's like maybe they develop more. We'll see what happens. Like Kawhi's health is still a question mark. Michael Youn bringing up a good point, who I did have to put in timeout earlier. I wonder what the trade deadline looks like.
What's the Clippers record?
Yeah. Like if let's call it, because we're at 500 right now. Let's call it they're at 500 at the trade deadline. I know I might get crucified for this. And if Norm Powell continues to play the way that he's playing, not tonight, I mean, on the whole, and the Clippers organization is able to trade Norman Powell for some kind of future asset, youth guy, something, I think they will make that trade.
Yeah.
Because Norm Powell next year, when we're like, maybe like, because the backup center is still a question mark, like they're Terance Mann, like if they can get something for Norman Powell, who only has 1 year, I believe, left on his contract after this season, they will do that. And because that's how we've seen the Clippers. The Clippers traded Lou Williams the day after he.
Well, it's also just because of like what's left on the contract. It's like the most tradable the deal could really be, and I'm not advocating for this.
No, we're not advocating for trading Norm at all. But if you look at it, like if you're a contender, and you're like, oh, we need someone who can like come in and walk into 20 points. We need a break. He's got this year and next year at 20 million, and then he's unrestricted.
And is there any sort of option on the next year?
No.
Oh wow! So you get him. You get him locked up as the cap goes up.
Yes.
And yeah, I don't know. I could just see that being a
Like,
really, really attractive asset to some other teams. And depending on what the move is,
because they're looking at 26, 27 is what the front office is talking about. Like,
yeah,
they've talked about they're going to have cap space after that next season. Like, this is what, like, they've told us this. Like, if they can get a crazy offer for Norm, I think he's moved. I don't like it, especially in his bobblehead season. I think this is the first time he's had a bobblehead for the Clippers.
well, that's their fault. That's insane.
Well, sure. I mean, hey, no problem like that. But yeah, it's like the trade deadline. There's a lot up in the air with the trade deadline because the Clippers also, until Mo Bamba comes back and proves that he is the backup center, need a backup center. We cannot keep playing Nico as the backup 5.
Yeah.
He's very good at the backup 5. I don't mean it in terms of an ability thing. The man is, pause for effect, 35, turning 36 on December 14th this year. He cannot be the backup center again. He was the backup center. He went and played for Philadelphia. He came back. He's still the backup center.
I mean, he wasn't really even the backup center then. It was just in small ball lineups, and because the other options, once again, classic recurring theme for the Clippers, were so bad.
Right, that's fair. But like, who, like, the back, like, dude, Kai getting a DNP in this game is crazy. Everyone played except Kai Jones. And this is not a shot at Kai. This is a shot at the roster construction. Like,
yeah,
backup center is important for this team.
Yeah.
Tyson Plumlee were not very good last year. They were miles ahead of what Kai Jones is bringing.
Oh, of course, but like he was going to be a really raw prospect to begin with. No, I always thought, and like who knows, if Mo comes into the season healthy, like who knows what that even looks like. Like who knows what his situation is with the team, and if we would have even seen him as much as we saw so far, which I don't really think so.
I wonder what his timeline looks like coming back, because I think he played in the G League, right? Like he was.
Yeah, he's like prepping towards a return. Yeah. He's on his designation was on assignment for tonight's game. So I would assume that he's close-ish.
Yeah, he's practicing. Like he's been through the practices, so that's good. One last note, and then I think we might call it. I don't know. Kevin Porter Jr., 5 minutes, 47 seconds tonight. Minus 11 in 5 minutes. Difficult to do. I mentioned this, and we've talked about it on the pod. Like, he's the second unit scorer.
And that's another problem that I have with Dunn moving into the starting lineup. Like, the thing I said that I liked about this team this year was like sort of this mix of some youth and some athleticism. Youth is a relative term when talking about the Clippers, but that youth and athleticism mixed with like sure, steady vets who like have pretty defined roles, and you know what you're going to get from them on a night in, night out basis. And so removing Chris Dunn from that, and we'll see how the rotations work out, obviously, because
which Ty has been good at.
Yeah, it's not a hockey change or anything, but removing Chris Dunn from that for a larger portion of minutes to me, I understand the potential upside with KPJ. I understand the potential upside with some of these other offensive players. I do think the floor is lowered without Chris Dunn with that unit to a certain extent. And that's, again, nothing against Terance. He's just a better facilitator and floor setter on the offensive side. He's been a more willing shooter, and he's a solid defender.
It's gonna be weird.
Wamba is a really bad rebounder. Thanks, Miles Johnson.
He's a really bad.
You are absolutely not wrong.
But that is a very fair point, because this team has talked about needing a rebounder, all that stuff, and like if
it has been emphasized though and picked up by like other
individuals,
other guys and guards. I mean, Harden tied Zubats for rebounds in this game, and Norm Powell was one behind. Like it doesn't have to come from one guy. I agree. Yeah, I mean, in that backup center, I would kind of just like a prototypical
A regular center.
6'11" dude, not a guy who's like trying to do Mason Plumlee behind the back passes or take the ball all the way.
Yes.
I just want a guy who's like going to grab boards and play a little defense and be taller than 6'10". Would be
Moses Brown.
That would
better
be
basketball IQ would be perfect for this.
Yeah,
team.
yeah.
Michael Youn bringing up a good point. PJ Tucker's going to save us all. Don't forget his name.
Well, talk about guys you got to keep on ice.
So this is one thing that pisses me off about the PJ Tucker situation.
Yeah,
it's a roster spot the Clippers need. Like we're getting like there's a complete. He's not even a young guy who's not getting time. Like this is a rostered guy.
Yeah,
who is not getting time and will be traded for a printer. Like, they're not getting anything back of any value if they trade for PJ Tucker. Like, what contender is Philly being like, oh, shit, we need PJ Tucker back? It's just not, that kills me. This is why we talk about the razor-thin margins with this team.
Yeah.
And the roster.
No, burning a roster spot is,
Jesus Christ.
Yeah, it's not great. My counterpoint would just be like, so what would you like them to do? Like, eat the dead money?
Sure.
I mean, at this point,
I will. Adam brought up a good point on the last pod because we were talking about they'd only played, I think 10 games up to that point. But he was like, this has felt like half of a season. And I think he's totally right.
Well, it's all the clutch minutes, man. These are real.
God,
watching these Clippers games, these are city miles, my friend. These are not highway miles.
No, yeah, these are stop and go driving. For all that.
Yeah, someone is bringing up the chat and the thing too. If you want to trade him so you don't have to take on that thing, you're gonna have to attach an asset.
Fine.
He's that toxic of a thing at this point that you have to attach an asset, and the Clippers are so threadbare on assets. I just don't think it's worth it.
Do we have a shit ton of seconds from the Luke Kennard trade still, or do we deal all those?
I think those are mostly burned out at this point.
God damn.
The only thing I could think, right, of why they haven't just decided to eat the money is if they are going to try to package him to bring back something else. And it's a possibility. We'll know more at the trade deadline. I just don't see them.
I mean, the man contract is tradable.
Yeah, I just don't really see them making a move to bring in more talent.
It's not a talent. So that's
to try and like save this season.
Because this team is not. I think I'll have to find the Lawrence Frank quote before we do the episode tomorrow. But like, he basically said, in the way that you say this as the GM of a basketball team, like, we're not winning the championship. We understand this roster is competitive. We can make a lot of noise. You know what I mean? Like, I love that point that you just made of like, this isn't a roster that like is a piece away. like they're not like, if they get talent, it's talent that theoretically, I know how Ty Lue plays, guys. Theoretically get some run next year to grow into that talent. And then when we have the max slot for 20,
I mean, that would honestly be the ideal situation. And from all the messaging, that seems to be what they're looking for. But I will add at the same time that how many times have we seen this Clippers team say one thing before the trade deadline, say, the type of team they're going to be and what they're looking for in prospective free agents, and then go the opposite direction.
Well, Paul George and Russ are off the team now, so I genuinely think that helps a bunch of things.
That's true. Yeah.
Like, you don't have two of. Okay, someone asked about the Paul George comments. Because he made some comments on his podcast, so he was like, I didn't say they were the B team. I said they were like the B team, and they don't even pack their arena out. So
but then he said they proved me right. So then you're saying that you did say that. You said the exact thing. If they proved you right, that would affirm your hypothesis. So
I think Hypothesis is giving him too much credit.
I cannot stand this dude. I hate that you sent me a text message with this video interview because I had to see it. I was hoping to never look, man, I was telling you, I'm honorably discharged from the PG Army. I never want to have to hear anything PG really has to say ever again.
I'm dishonorably discharged. They kicked me out.
That's fair.
They kicked me out.
That's fair. But yeah, what do you even want me to say? This guy puts his foot in his mouth every second, and he took cheap shots at the attendance of the Intuit Dome when he was there. So I just don't care. I just don't care. Your team is what, 1-9 or whatever. I just don't care. You're sitting out back-to-backs. Just classic Paul George behavior.
It's just like, it's the thing. Oh, I hope I'm not lost here. It's the thing where it's like, I hate. So great point by Stump. Think before you speak. Paul George is the epitome of what I would say personally I dislike so much about the new kind of media sphere that sports stuff is, where like if Paul George's podcast was about fishing or something like that, right? Like, and it's him and his friends fishing and they're talking about whatever, like, yeah, fine. No one can really be that mad about what you're saying. But when your podcast is about seemingly the current affairs in the NBA and like his day to day, and you talk shit about a fan base that you used to play for, people are going to be upset. You can't wonder why they're upset with you.
Yeah.
Like, there's this thing with athletes where I think, and this goes to Aaron Rodgers as well, where it's like, I'm just a guy. I'm just a guy saying what I think. And it's like, you're not just a guy, you fucking idiot.
You're a guy with a massive platform, which, like
a massive platform and a massive amount of money that fans want you to play at the level of the money that you've been given. It's this disconnect of like, dude, I don't care if you have a high def webcam. You're still Paul George with your friends who wear the worst hats. I haven't talked about this on the pod, but I will bring it up. Whoever is selling Dallas Rutherford those flame LA Dodgers hats deserves a raise. But like, it makes me so upset because what pisses me off is that Paul George's take is like, well, they're just being crazy. And it's like, no, dude, you don't get it. I don't know. I'm sorry. I'm fired up.
Yeah, I mean, it's frustrating.
Anything you want to end
the Fry guy is stepping up, willing to be traded along with PG. Or PJ. Sorry, PJ.
Hey, DeFry guy, thank you for your service. Wherever you go with PJ, please give us the team secrets, and we will use that to beat them.
Yeah, we need those Jazz trade secrets.
One more thing, and then we're going to do final takes and then get out of here. My one more thing, dude, Pop had a stroke? That's crazy. Hope he just, the man is obsessed with basketball. It's very much his thing. I hope he's doing okay. Any final takes on this game tonight and how we might feel about Friday? We are doing an episode tomorrow, so don't give up all the good stuff.
Yeah, I mean, like I said to start this one off, interesting bullpen game. It's great that these young guys who we haven't got to see a lot of got a little bit of pop, got a little bit of run, had some momentum, which was really, really nice. I'm so curious to see what this team comes out looking like on Friday with a little bit, a little bit of a rest from the clutch time. Seeing some of these young guys, I don't know that this one game will be enough to necessarily nudge anybody definitively into that 10th, 11th spot. But I'm curious to see what this team is going to look like. And man, we are so overdue for an efficient James Harden game. Like, was that
Miles?
Let's go here, guy. Let's go here.
Was that Jeremy or was that Miles talking about it? I think it was Miles Johnson talking about needing the James Harden game. Big James Harden game in the in-season tournament? Will, I think you were on to something. Maybe it's the in-season tournament that sparks James Harden's efficiency. I hope we see it.
Even though we
Jay,
know that winning the in-season tournament is somehow cursed.
we'll take it. We'll take it. Could you, Will, of all people, wouldn't you want them to win the in-season tournament? The first NBA team to win the double, the in-season tournament, and the Larry O.B.? The only team to raise the double?
I mean, that's the EGOT.
That's the EGOT of the new NBA. And if Ty Lue puts out a record, I think he'd probably win a Grammy. So that would really cement it as an EGOT. Jay is saying, look forward to running into Rutherford at church again. I'll bring up his deleted tweet on behalf of Clipper Nation. I promise. LOL. I don't know what church you're going to. Do it in whatever respectful, tasteful way that
But
the
still
religion
shady.
you're going to church would maybe do it. But don't hassle him.
Still shady. Be shady.
Unless he's wearing one of those flame hats. And I know y'all know what hat I'm talking about.
But it's a crucifix.
It's an upside down. I know y'all know what I'm talking about because no one else wears that hat in Los Angeles. All right, I think we're going to wrap it up. Thank you to everyone for hanging out in the stream. We're going to have a full episode with Adam Osland on it tomorrow. Will, where can these people find the podcast? I guess we're kind of doing a little podcast thing. Where can they find out all the other?
Oh yeah, totally. So we come live at you periodically post game. We try to do it as often as possible. You can catch those over on youtube.com/@ClippersPodcast, which is the best way to catch our regular podcast. But if you're not doing video, if you're more into the audio thing, we're on all podcast platforms. If you listen over on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, go ahead, leave us a little rating and review. You can also leave comments now on every episode on Spotify. Start doing that. We'll start checking them. Let's it's our year, baby. Let's keep the conversation going.
Let's keep the conversation going. That's what this year is all about. We love y'all. And as always, let's go Clips. We'll be back with a full episode on youtube.com/@ClippersPodcast tomorrow night, probably around like 7-ish. Anyway, Will, say the classic Will Updike line and we'll end the stream.